Welcome, SFL Nation, to the Season 17 preview show, along with Mike St. Green, our regular analyst here at SFL Studios. He's joined by Eric Vincent, who will be filling in for him in Week 1, as Mike is going all over the Atlantic, all over the islands and America and all sorts of places, Mike. It's exciting. So we wish you well.
Yeah, looking forward to the trip, but also looking forward to getting back here with the SFL family in a couple of weeks.
So, with that being said, we've got an array of topics to get to regarding Season 17. We're going to start with Mike, and we start with this question. Mike, who's got the most complete roster in the SFL heading into Season 17?
Wow, Cam, I'll tell you what, this was a tough question, and looking over all of the SFL rosters, there were several to choose from here, but at the end of the day, I narrowed it down to the Fort Worth Toros. These guys bringing back a ton of players from last season on a successful season, and then they add in the Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, former Defensive Player of the Year, Jeff Duffy, to that defensive line, and then added another player or two here or there to a great secondary and defense that these guys have. It just turned into the best roster in the SFL. For me, it was close. For me, one honorable mention I would give to the Florida Storm. And if I was looking at all the rosters correctly, Florida is the only team in the SFL where no one on their rosters played for another team. And so wow. I found that pretty interesting. And basically they only added, I think, maybe one rookie to that roster. And so I know they're definitely a close second, being that they were in the championship game last season. But I think I'm expecting great things out of Fort Worth this season. And I think right now they have the most complete roster going into Season 17.
And Jason Williams, new head coach in Fort Worth, inheriting a mighty fine roster after his time in the minors in Albuquerque. Eric, how about you? Most complete roster this season?
Well, I don't need to give a complete roster. Mike already said it right there. Fort Worth Toros.
Oh, my gosh. Now you've just given him a free London pass. Now he gets to use a London pass. Go ahead, Eric.
Don't worry. We'll get into London. Don't you worry. For the sake of being different, I will go ahead and I'll say the Baltimore Vultures. Looking at their roster, they are stacked from just coming from last season to this season, and they have always been a perennial playoff team. You've got Jack Wigmore coming back once again. He's going to lead the troops. I think that's his second full season as the quarterback for the Vultures. Jimmy Hazard is coming in, the rookie. He's going to take over the running back duties for T-Roy Gaines, who's made the transition to fullback. But you've got all the weapons still there. Ivory Irvin, Mac Chima, Daley Holder, Lloyd Graham Jr., and Surron Yates over on the defensive end. I mean, this team is stacked. Baltimore is looking primed for a championship run. And with the way that Denver has kind of retooled things in this offseason with a lot of their players retiring, I think it's Baltimore's time at this point to finally take advantage.
Yeah, and they've got a division that unless it improves, it was one of the weaker ones last season. We'll see what London, Queen City, D.C. can do about that. Okay, back to you, Mike. Rookies who you have an eye on this season, a very deep class. We saw the last rookie taken was now the star running back in Denver, right? So a lot to choose from here, but rookies who you have your eye on, Mike.
Well, as you mentioned, the Mr. Irrelevant in this past draft, Bailey O'Shaughnessy, he's taken over for this past season's MVP in Jared McChesney, and a SFL championship winner. The last time that happened, Cam, was Bryant Dynasty taking over for a championship winner and MVP in Atlanta. And Bryant Dynasty had an excellent rookie campaign over there with Atlanta. So I'm going to keep a close eye on Bailey O to see what he can do over there in that offense. It's going to be a lot of pressure on him to fill some huge shoes over there in Denver. So I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on him. And I'm telling you, Cam, another rookie that I'm going to be keeping an eye on is Joseph Green, a quarterback picked by Las Vegas Fury. He's taken over for Colin Pierce, a rookie that decided to leave the league after one season. And the reason why I want to take a good look at Joseph this season is because Las Vegas took a step forward last season, made the playoffs, had a great second half of the season once they grew into that season with the rookie quarterback. I want to see how long it's going to take Joseph to come up to speed and maybe keep this team on the course that they're on and making the playoffs again in season 17.
And ironically enough, Marcus Dunhill is now taking over for a 2021 Hall of Fame inductee and Christian Christensen, who is retired from Jacksonville. Eric, your rookies to watch and why?
Gotta love how the league comes full circle like that. OJ Bruin, the 6th overall pick, going to the Portland Fleet this year. He is going to be a big name to watch out for, I think. Very efficient quarterback, 12 touchdowns, 5 picks coming out of the SFL minors, taking over for Matt South, who had departed Portland. So this is going to be a very intriguing spot for him. Portland is at a very big crossing roads for their team, where they're starting to finally get the expansion woes out of their system. It might be time for them to finally take that next step and propel themselves into the playoffs. Will OJ Bruin do it? We'll have to find out. The other guy that I'm looking at, and I mentioned his name earlier talking about the Vultures, it's going to be Jimmy Hazard, the heir apparent to that running back position over in Baltimore. It's going to be very challenging to fill the shoes of a big-time back like T-Roy Gaines. But we've seen T-Roy's stats kind of trickle down, over the seasons. And I think maybe Baltimore might look into tweaking some things a little bit, maybe find a guy that they can feed the ball to a little bit more, maybe shy away from the air raid attack that we've seen in the past couple seasons. So it's very intriguing to see where exactly Jimmy Hazard is going to fall with T-Roy making the transition to fullback this season.
Great stuff, guys. All right, last question in this segment. Mike, who's under the most pressure to win right now?
And Cam, this is a really tough question. I mean, you could literally say everyone, because everyone wants to win right now, and all the contracts in the SFL are one season contract, so you don't know if you're building for the future. You don't know if you're going to deal with a bunch of guys leaving your roster after one season. So you don't know. So the pressure is really literally on everyone. But two teams in particular, Cam, that I put on my list were, one was the Lone Star Glory. Just to touch on them real quick, they lost Coach Craven, they lost Doug Day, they lost the fullback Comasack, I believe it was. Collier that they lost. So yeah, and this is their third season in Lone Star. These guys have progressed. They made the playoffs the first 2 seasons. They took a one step further last season. The pressure's now. Can they take that next step? Get to the semifinals. Get to the championship game. Ace Fennick is going to be coming into his 3rd season. So we're going to see how they can progress in that manner. So yes, a little pressure on them to say, hey, we lost these guys. We replaced them. Can we take a step forward without them? And the other one for me, Cam, is Sioux Falls. They had a very disappointing season last season, but can they get back to 2 seasons ago and a season before that when they 2 times runner-ups in the championship game? They've changed philosophies this season. It looks like going to a 4 wide receiver set, no contract tight ends on the roster. So yeah, I think it's a little pressure on them to say, hey, we're changing up. We want to get back to where we were. So we're going to see if our new style, can get us back to our championship level.
I think they're the only team without a contracted tight end on their roster. Eric, what do you think?
Well, I referenced them in the last question. We're just going to continue down the train of the Portland Fleet. Expansion team a couple seasons ago, I believe coming into their 3rd season in the league. It's getting to the point in time where you start to see that turnaround a little bit. And, the Fleet, they're starting to gear up. They're starting to get that retention in there, starting to make sure that the progression carries over for these guys that are coming in here and stay with the team after a couple seasons. I mentioned bringing in OJ Bruin. He might be the answer coming out of the minors. You still got weapons coming in there. Art Vandelay is sticking around. You've got Nelson Lozano Jr. at tight end. The defense is still looking stacked. Mel Davis is one of my favorite linebackers in the league.
2-time All-Star.
Dude is a hard worker. He will hit you in the mouth every time. I mean, he is a great linebacker. So Portland's got to make a turnaround here coming up soon. So I think they're under pressure to take that next step and at least contend for a playoff position this season. And then the other team, and I'm sorry, Mike, I told you I was going to talk about your team, man. The London Knights, none other than the London Knights. You get the big free agent acquisitions like Mike St. Green, like Johnny Pickler. You're going to get a target on your back. And, London's been waiting for this season to finally at least get themselves into contention here. And I think this might be the year. Robert Merrill still being back, Vin Calia, Mike St. Green, Saren Storm. Very, very stacked offensively and defensively, adding a guy like Anthony Wayo. It looks like it's going to be one of those seasons for London where they at least start contending, if not getting into the playoffs.
You can watch the SFL Season 17 all season long on Next Level Sports for the fans, FTF Twitch, and the SFL's Twitch channel. And, of course, every game and all the coverage of the SFL will be archived on our YouTube channel.